And we're live. And this week we're talking to the amazing Alan. Is it pronounced Alan Rhode, or is it because you're Italian, aren't you? How's your surname pronounced?
No, but it's an English surname because my father was born in the UK.
Oh, okay.
So that's a trick. No, Alan Rode in the English way.
Yeah. Okay. And you are the author of the amazing book, The Eagle and the Cockerel. Before I get it, The Eagle and the Cockerel.
The Eagle and the Cocker.
Yeah.
Yes, we just published the paperback version. It's a political thriller about a French politician who proposes a referendum to unify France and Germany outside of the European Union in a new superpower called Charlemagne. And it's set in the future, and it's a referendum taking place on a social media, so it's more a social media poll. And the idea came to me actually before Brexit, you can imagine. And when I learned that a strange piece of news that in 1951, and not many around know about this, Konrad Adenauer, the German chancellor, proposed during an interview to an American outlet that France and Germany should unify in a new country. It may sound weird now, or perhaps not, but you need to understand the context. Germany was at risk of being dismantled, at least its industries. France was on her knees. So it was probably a way out from a very tough situation. It was not the best case scenario for Adenauer, but he made this proposal during an interview, and then he repeated the same proposal in another interview 2 weeks later. So uh, he believed in this proposal, and but strangely enough, nobody has spoken about it ever. I mean, I found the transcript of the interview, but I didn't find mentions on the press or in history books. So I thought, oh wow, when there is something realistic behind the story, it makes it even more intriguing. And so I started from there. I said, let's think of a referendum about France and Germany unifying. Let's imagine a monopolistic, domineering social media platform from Germany, and let's have this, let's call it a narcissistic politician from France who do everything to be popular and to gain power probably. And let's have an opposing character, an Italian girl, a news logger who lives in the UK. So, and I don't want to spoil the plot, but that's the starting point for a racy, fast-paced political thriller. And the feedback from the public and from the critic, especially those who work in politics, reviewers who work in politics. It was outstanding. So I'm very happy, and I'm very happy to be here today.
Okay. So political thrillers. It's a pretty niche genre. Let's say that. It's like there's not many people writing political thrillers. Why was it that one particular speech that kind of in your mind thought, oh yeah, that whole Germany France integration thing, or was it? I mean, there must have been a little bit of life imitating art when you saw Brexit happen after you found out this. Thought, why did you choose to write a political thriller? Why not write just a general thriller and maybe have this in the background? Why just make it like politics at the heart of the book? What is it? Are you interested in those dynamics? What kind of?
Very much, very much so. I love when I, as a reader or when I watch movies, I feel I'm involved in some decision-making process.
Yeah,
And that's what happened in the book. You can feel the decision made by the various characters, and it was the idea. Is It's a pre-Brexit idea actually.
yeah,
I was very optimistic. I said, "Oh, I should hurry up in writing it before the referendum," which was impossible. It took me a couple of years to write it, but I started in early 2020.
yeah.
I had some false thoughts because we had two children coming into my household, our babies. I had some other endeavors to take care of. So he flew in early 2020, and it was published hardcover in 2023. So it was largely after Brexit. But it's still relevant because also said that there is reference to plenty of reference to Brexit and how people feel about it. It's still very controversial, I believe. It's funny because I grew up in Italy, so for Italians and for many Europeans on the continent, Brexit is a mistake, is a clear mistake. But here in the UK, especially outside of London, is an entirely different story, and it's still a matter of controversy and debate, as you know better than me. And so I like political fiction, especially when it's not politics is not too in the background. I like to involve the reader in the decision that the politicians make, and this is actually what is happening. Sorry.
So I have a question because, like, I haven't read your book yet. I may get around to it eventually. But you say that they're having a referendum to merge Germany and France together. Why did you do that in the context of outside of the European Union? Because some people would argue that maybe that you could have that happen inside, like, is the idea of like even greater union. That would be even greater union. Why have they left the EU in your book and then they're moving together? It kind of seems like two different things, if that makes sense.
I agree in full with you. I think it was to raise the stake.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be, how can I say, if a idea was to unify the two countries within the EU, probably people would feel that not much is changing, or
Yeah.
probably it would probably even improve the political scenario within the EU. While it's, I think, this type of right-wing politician, they want to destabilize Europe. They want to change everything, to restart from the scratch from scratch. So that's the reason why it was to make it even more thrilling, I would say.
Okay. And so, who are the main characters? You've kind of described them briefly, but who are the main characters in your book? And obviously, you can't say who wins or what happens at the end, but what is the kind of interaction between them, and like what do they stand for? Presumably, one's pro-integration, one's anti-integration.
True. One of the main characters is Vincent Damon. He's a French politician. He's very flamboyant. He's very egocentric. And the first chapter is titled "A Brand in Himself," because fashion brands even try to have an endorsement with him. So he's a showman. He's a
Yeah.
showman, a politician, but also a showman. And at the beginning of a story, he's no longer involved in institution, and he doesn't belong to any political party. So it's a one-man band kind of attitude. And his opponent is very, very different, very antithetic. It's Miss Cliché, Lucia Moret, an Italian news blogger who lives in the UK, and her vlog is called Miss Cliché because on one occasion in her past during a debate, somebody tried to belittle her by calling her Miss Cliché because she's a bit too woke.
Yeah.
Not in my opinion, and probably not in the reader's opinion necessarily, but in her opponent's opinion. And they are very different. The book delves into their past, and it's a very different past. The relationship they have towards their families, or the type of friends they have, their entourage are very different. And I think why because when I began writing the book, at a certain stage I had the help of the editor, and the editor recommended, okay, this book is very focused on politics, but don't forget the characters, their feelings, where they're coming from. And so I decided to have two opposing characters, not just because they have different political ideas, but because they have different lives, and a different approach to life again.
Okay.
And there are many other characters.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't like books when you struggle to remember the names, or when
Yeah.
so the key characters are probably 6 or 7, so uh, you can understand them better, and you can relate to them. I don't like characters with hundreds of books with hundreds of characters, as it often happens. So there is a limited range of characters, but it's how I wanted this book to be.
Okay. And what was your what was your process for getting the book published? Did you self-publish it? Did you go with a publisher? Were you approached by somebody to publish it? How did the
It's
publication?
in between. It's in between. So I work with a company called White Fox, and this is not a vanity book because it was scrutinized, and you don't understand that it's a self-published because there was a huge investment in marketing, and it's available on all major outlets. But technically speaking, it's self-published, and I'm happy with it, because the problem within the book industry, the publishing industry, is that if you get a book published by a major publisher, they will retain all rights,
Yeah,
even for gaming or movies. And in all fairness, I don't think it's fair.
yeah,
And so I chose this avenue, which is a bit an in between self-publishing and proper publishing, and I'm very happy with it. And my second book, sorry, which I'm writing right now, I'm halfway through the process, and hopefully it will see the light in late 2025. So 1 year from now, basically, it will be the same kind of formula.
when you were writing, it sounds like you took a long time to write the book, like 4 years or so, something like that, 5 years. Or was it? Actually, no, not.
No,
I'm
two
trying to think.
years. No, no, since 2 years.
Yeah,
2 years, 2 years and a half. There were a couple of false starts ages ago.
yeah,
But when I started in early 2022, the book then was, 2020, the book was then ready in mid 2022. So I would say a couple of years, and then it took some other time to get it published. But it takes 2 years, and it's almost 80,000 words. My
yeah,
next book will be more around 90,000 words, or even 100K. And it takes 2 years, and but I have my, I kind of say, I write every day. I try to write every day. It can be evening, can be lunch break, it can be a bit in the afternoon. It depends, but I made a habit of writing every day. Otherwise, I think it's very different to keep the pace, right? So
yeah. Well, I was going to ask, like, when you were writing this, obviously events unfolded, Brexit happened, and
mhm,
there was lots of
mm,
political.
mm.
Did the process of writing this book change the way that you look at politics? Or have you always been really interested in politics? Or did the process of writing it change the way that you looked at Brexit and the rest of it? Like, did you get any more insight into things? Or did it?
I believe no, what happened outside in the US, uh, in the UK, confirm basically what are the assumptions of the book.
Yeah,
That politics has become very fluid, that we are in a very post ideological era, and I believe that politicians always followed trends, and they want votes, because votes are like food for humans. So if you're a politician, you need votes. But nowadays, they really tend to follow the trail, the people's mood. And we can see, I grew up in Italy, I follow Italian politics almost every day, and you see uh, ministers, or even the prime minister, or politicians in general, changing their mind uh, within in 4 months. So it's a completely fluid. It's, and the book, and I mean, what happened outside confirmed what I was writing in the book, and the other way around.
yeah,
So, and I like to make a joke. I think nowadays people like to vote for the villain, for who would be a villain in a movie, and I'm not trying to offend anyone, but they are not looking for a crystal clear kind of politician. They're looking more for somebody who has the gift of the gab, who has charisma. There is a quest for charisma in politicians nowadays, and I saw it in Italy with Berlusconi ages ago, and then who was a pioneer in this sense, a maverick, and then Boris Johnson or Trump in the US, Brazil. I mean, I don't think that people they want to be reassured by politicians with charisma and who are clearly against the status quo. And it depends. In 10 years' time, maybe it was going to be very different, and people will look for somebody more diplomatic. You know.
You say like there's this big social media network because it's is this supposed to be in the future or an alternative reality? But there's a big social media network. Tell me a little bit about
Yes.
what that's supposed to be representing and whether that's you're just making a comment on social media in general there. So,
No. At the very beginning, I thought, okay, let's have a referendum in the story. But then I said the referendum with the ballot, the the pencil, or let's have something completely new. So let's have a social media poll, but it must be a social media poll on a very large social media. So I came out with the idea with a dominating social media from Germany, who is getting more powerful than the country itself. And then I thought this social media should be also marketplace, should be everything, the place where you want to go for any of your needs.
yeah,
And which is, in a way, it's happening with many digital conglomerates. And I took inspiration, for instance, this social media is trying to buy out all the other platforms, and if the platforms don't accept the offer, this social media platform is called Rome. They will try to have the other platforms shut down, and this is what happened actually with Facebook. Facebook has been accused, at least Facebook has been accused of trying to torpedo all the platforms that were not accepting to be uh, purchased by Facebook. So at least this is an accusation in the US, and there is a pending case, I believe. So I take an inspiration from real facts, but I believe that a domineering social media platform should have a role within the book, and part of the book is set in Berlin, where the headquarters of a platform are based. And so it's a book moving from Birmingham to Italy, Paris, and Berlin. So it's a journey throughout Europe.
yeah. And apart from the whole like 1950s thing, why did you pick Germany and France? Why not UK and France or Italy and France? Given you spend most of your time either in Italy or UK at the moment.
True. Because of France and Germany history. So these two countries, I mean, we have been living in 70 and more years of peace, but France and Germany have a peculiar relationship because there are clear connections. If you think that France, the name France is from the Franks, which were a German tribe. So the idea of the countries with their own boundaries, set boundaries as it is now, it's a relatively new one. 500 years, 600 years ago, it was completely different. It was much more fluid, even the boundaries. And France and Germany have fought for a long time, for centuries. But then the European Union, at the beginning was the European Economic Community, was created to appease France and Germany and to get them close on economic and industrial matters at the beginning. So it is the relationship of France and Germany at the core of the European Union, of the Union, and so the book had to be about this peculiar relationship. Italy, it's one of founding countries of Europe, but it never had the economic or military power of France and Germany. It has a different role in Europe. It's a very important role, and it's a very important role of Italy globally. In cultural terms, if you think that so many people like to dress Italian, drive Italian cars, use
Mm.
Italian furniture, eat Italian food, it's a it's a very, very important cultural influence, but it's different. So it had to be France and Germany, in my opinion. And the UK was already outside of the EU when the book was published. So unfortunately, it wasn't a possible choice.
Yeah, well, it's funny because I think this is true. This is another one of these, but I think there was talk in 1940 when France has been invaded, the very just after the Germans had broken through,
Yes,
of unifying the UK and France into one country,
true.
way to maintain the. But I mean, that was obviously a bit more desperate than the situation in 1950.
And probably, if we even more unthinkable nowadays,
Yeah.
because not just because of Brexit, but because of a relationship between France and the UK and England. Yes, true, true. It was an idea. It was a desperate move to block the Germans at the time, and
Yeah.
as we know, it didn't go through.
No, well, it wouldn't have worked anyway because like
Yes.
to just let them have like some Channel Islands or something. They might get. Okay, let's talk about you're working on a second book now.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that and when's that going to be available? Are you going to be finishing that this year or next year?
No, it's gonna be available. Hopefully, I'm working hard to have a second book published in November 2025.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah, so it's still more than
Yeah.
a year, but which is fair given that the paperback of the Eagle and the Cockerel, let me show it, was published on the 27th of June 2024. So
Yeah.
it's very fresh, and it's a book is still set in the future. Is a thriller with many twists and a very fast-paced plot, but it's a different topic. The underlying topic is the environment. It's going to be a book about human beings living indoor in the future because of
Yeah.
an environmental collapse, or at least this is what they have been told. So there are some twists, and there are some. I think the environment is the underlying matter. In the Eagle of the Cocker, sorry, it's politics. In the next book, is going to be the environment, and it's very different. I mean, the subject is very different, as you can see, appreciate, but because I want to prove to myself that I can diversify. So I have a goal. I want to write 10 books within the age of 65. So it's going to be a book every 2 years, crossing finger. That's my goal and ambition. And I want every book to be different from the other. And I will always write without second guessing. I will write what I feel it's important and innovative for me, and let's see how the readers will react.
Yeah. So why is it called the Eagle and the Cockerel? It's yeah.
Because the eagle is the theoretically is the symbol of Germany and the cockerel of France.
Oh, okay.
And I thought, let's have this kind of fable-like title, and I think that even for people, when you have two clear images of animals, it's always a very direct way of communicating, right? It's not abstract. So, that's why flags probably exist, because people are drawn to colors. It's our childlike side, maybe, and that's why I asked the author of a cover, who is very famous, Nathan Barton. He's a celebrity in the UK, and probably more than the UK. And I told him, let's have one eagle and one cockerel opposing each other, and let's make the eagle a bit more aggressive, how it looks. I mean, it's easy. An eagle looks more aggressive than a cockerel. And please don't make the cockerel look like a chicken, because that's a risk when you the cockerel. I mean, it can look a bit like a chicken, and we don't know that for poor France.
Okay, I've had an idea of a silly question I'm going to ask you, but
No
behind,
way.
as you pointed out, you have a dole of like, is it Donald Trump, Boris Johnson,
Theresa May and Farage.
Farage. If you had to write a political thriller starring those four characters, what would happen in it?
I think it would be very. They would probably fight each other
Yeah,
and destroy each other's political projects for the sake of not allowing another one to prevail. I mean, Theresa May, she's the clearly different kind of
yeah,
person, but Trump, Farage, and Boris Johnson, there are clearly some collections. I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a shrink, but I see a fil rouge among these three characters,
yeah.
and they're still. I mean, Boris Johnson now is a bit uh, aside, but Farage and Trump clearly are still fighting.
Well, even Theresa May, she was involved in canvassing with somebody recently. They caught this video of her on a ring doorbell. You know those like video ones.
Oh,
Somebody published online that they had Theresa May coming up and saying, "Can you vote Conservative?" Which
okay.
I thought was
I don't
quite
know
funny.
I don't know the reaction.
Yeah, no, well they because you know like these video doorbells. Apparently, there's a whole load of people posting like they have like David Cameron and other people come up and they just can't for the doorbell now. So it's quite new, really. I'm still surprised that in the UK the politicians go up to people around the houses. I don't
Hmm.
think they do that in the US anymore. So it's very old-fashioned work there. So I'm going to ask you, given the date in the UK is the 3rd of July and we have a general election tomorrow, and you're a political thriller writer, who do you think is going to win the election tomorrow? Or what do you think is going to happen? Do you think it's going to be as cataclysmic as people say in terms of
No, I think it will
change?
be. I will be less cataclysmic. Uh, I think the prediction will be met, but it will be less cataclysmic than they say, and I will be curious to see how Farage fares. What is your opinion? How is going to end tomorrow? Do you?
Well, my kind of gut feeling is that it will end up being closer to 1997 than total wipeout. How many seats the Conservatives get? But I can see reform coming through and winning a few seats,
Hmm.
which actually would be amazing for them in terms of like just the way the electoral system works. But I don't know. I mean, the funny thing is they've got these new opinion polls where they try and predict the number of seats. But while the opinion polls are good at working out the percentages, the whole ascribing them to seats is kind of new. So we don't know these seat estimates they give whether they're accurate or not. And it could be even worse for the Tories than what the polls say, which could be interesting. It's like there's like Rishi and three other MPs who are Conservative tomorrow, which would be interesting, but we don't. I don't know. So it was kind of it's unfair of me to put you on the spot, but I was like, oh yeah. So I think it will be an interesting election for all sorts of reasons. Because normally, however bad it gets, there's always the two parties always have way more seats than anybody else, and
Mhm.
this time could well be that the Tories fall to like 100 seats or something like that, and that would be interesting. I mean, it's fun, ironic that Liberal Democrats could jump up to like 10 times the number of seats they've got at the moment by having a lower vote share just because of the way the maths works. So it'll be an interesting election. So, anyway, well, thank you so much for being a guest today,
Thank you,
Alan.
Tim.
And I might be talking to you again on my other show soon, but chat live. next week. So if anybody wants to see what Alan chooses as his favourite books, I think you might know one of them, the usual on the top call. And thanks for everybody watching live. And
Thank you.
thanks so much. And I'm going to try and reach for the outro button. Here we go. So thanks everybody for watching. Bye.
This is what God requires.